I knew how hard it was to cut something an inch wide at 100 yards, but I just did 5 of them. And I walked up that target. I'm just amazed. And I just had that in my head. God had to be guiding these arrows. I walked up, and there's the ribbons laying to the side, and the arrow's right down the middle. And I pulled out the first arrow, and I said, man, oh, man. And as I was pulling them out, I started thinking about God guiding my arrows. And I want to tell you, by the time I got to the 5th arrow, it hit me hard. I thought, has God been guiding my arrows since I was 5 years old? Did everything in my life happen for a purpose? And holy smokes, it just can't be. I was just a kid from a broken home. And it was so overwhelming to me. I went to my knees. I had my bow in one hand, the arrows in the other. And I said, from now on, Lord, this is no longer to my glory, it's to yours. And God promised me that the day I die, I go to heaven. I got a new home. But now I got a new job. I'm no longer a hunter of animals, I'm a hunter of men.
Okay, welcome back to the Pay It Forward podcast. I am one of your hosts, Austin Seward, along with my co-host, Keegan Walls. And today we have the pleasure of sitting down with my good friend, Ray Howell. Ray has had a massive impact on my life since I've gotten to know him. He officiated our wedding this year. We've been friends for the past 5, 6, 7 years. And Ray's been such a blessing in my life to be able to know him, to be involved with Kicking Bear and the organization that's played in my life. So this episode means a lot to me to have Ray here. He has an incredible testimony to share, to hopefully inspire some of you guys that are listening to this today. So thanks for being here, Ray.
I had an awesome day at your wedding. I want to let you know that. I officiated, and I was crying like a baby. If you guys would have seen Austin when he gave his vows, I'll tell you what, when he was done, the first word came out of my mouth was wow, right in front of everybody. What a blessing. What a blessing it is to see a marriage that is Christ-centered.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
both of us standing up there bawling our eyes out.
I can attest. Austin was really crying. So much so that it was like beyond the point where I could give him a little crap for it. I was like, no, he was really crying. I better lay off.
yeah.
So I want to start this off. So Kicking Bear, well, first tell us a little bit about what Kicking Bear is high level, Ray.
Well, Kicking Bear, it started when I was 5 years old. All I can tell you that everything in my life that the devil did to bully me, beat me up, turn me inside out, God uses it for good. Yeah, wow. So what we do is we go to the streets. We find these kids that are on the wrong path. What's interesting, when there's a broken home, the devil will take the kids and turn them into puppets. And that's where Kicking Bear steps in. We get involved with these kids. We get them in the outdoors. We put a bow in their hands and a tomahawk and fishing poles and BB guns and you name it. We use those as tools to get them focused on something good, and that is Jesus Christ. So, yeah, there's quite a story to Kicking Bear and me sitting here today. How humbling.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to diving deeper into that story. I just want to start out with just sharing some stats on the fatherless, because when we look at society today, there's problems, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, and I feel like some of the solutions that society is trying to put on these problems are just Band-Aids on a bigger issue, and that bigger issue is fatherless homes. And this is right off the Kicking Bear's website. 43% of children in the U.S. live without their father. Fatherless children are 4 times more likely to live in poverty, 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 63% of fatherless kids are victims of youth suicides. 85% of youth in prison grew up in a fatherless home. 90% of homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes, and 75% of youth in chemical abuse centers are from fatherless homes. Like,
unbelievable,
mind-blowing stats.
Yeah.
the problem isn't drug addiction. That's a result of growing up in a broken home. And Kicking Bear is absolutely on the front lines fighting this battle, the battle of fatherless homes and not having Jesus in the home, and a married parents that are leading children. So I'm super passionate about the organization. They are doing awesome things throughout the country through putting on big, large camps all across the country and also one-on-one mentorship. So
Let's pause there.
Yeah.
And then let's ask Ray about that. Like, talk about the importance of the father, right? There's going to be some stats too, like homes without mothers, but fatherless homes and the way that plays, especially from a biblical principle, it's ignored. But I mean, these are stats. You can't argue with numbers or facts, right? They're not, I feel like this. They're not feelings and emotions. So why do you see such a significance on homes and the nucleus of the family, like the role that fathers play in that?
Well, the father is the spiritual leader in the home. And when that's gone, it's like there's no direction for the kids. They're left to the streets. And that could be bullying at school. It could be just not being able to go fishing or do things that would be something to do with the dad, where the moms are at home and keeping the home together. And, when a kid grows up without a dad and has nobody to teach him even how to mow the lawn or how to play baseball or do things, that kid is on his own, and it's very easy for them kids to get involved with other kids that got the same problems. And the next thing you know, instead of going out and getting a job and doing something to better themselves, they're all doing things that, man. And, when I last prison I spoke at, I'm going to tell you what, that hit me hard, because I thought about how many of these men were fatherless. It's mind-blowing. And you're right, with the drugs. I mean, drugs are so rampant. And, without a father in the home to grab a hold of a kid, the Bible says to discipline your kids so that they'll grow up to be good kids. If you don't discipline them, they end up hating you. And something, that's exactly what happens. And if you don't discipline the kids and keep them on the right path until they get to a point where they know better, boy, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So,
and I think back to when we did that video with Kobe's mom, the young boy that I mentored, and she talks about, like, she's doing the best that she can, but at the end of the day, she's a mom. There's things that she cannot do as a mom, that even though she is doing her best to raise him up to be a good kid, there's some stuff that a man needs to do. And that's not a popular thing that you hear right now. But that's the nature of it. So,
and it's not a knock on moms.
No,
moms are
not
incredible,
at all.
especially like as a man, right? Mama's boy. Mothers are incredible, but in the same vein, there's just a role in this need and this quality that God put on a man, the same way He put a quality on a woman. God has put something in a man to be a father, and when that's gone and it's not there, there's obviously going to be ramifications for that.
Yeah.
Well, part of that too, with a single parent mom, if she's got several kids, she's got to put food on the table. She's got to get them kids to school. She's got all kinds of responsibilities that probably have no opportunity to let that kid really follow their dreams. And for me, when you have dreams in your heart when you're a kid, I really believe that they're biblical. God's put those dreams in your heart, and someday He'll use them for good. But if there is so much of a struggle just for the mom to keep their head above water, there's a dark cloud over the family. And that is a stress all in itself. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So, Ray, I've heard your story. I know where this passion comes from and helping kids, but why don't you take us back to the beginning of your story? Where did that start?
Yeah, thank you, Austin. I mean, my mom and my dad were pretty cool. I mean, we were at home with mom all day long, but when dad got to the door, it was game on. We stood at the window waiting for him to come to in the driveway, and it was just hooting and hollering before he even got the door. But as soon as he got in that door, we were wrestling around and just having fun. Mom was great, but there was something really special about dad. And so on weekends when he didn't have to work, we got to goof around with dad. And one of the weekends that I talked about, which was really fun, he had his old four-wheeler, and we go out in the woods just pounding around and having a blast, hooting and hollering with him. Well, one day he got that thing stuck in the mud, and I'm telling you, I could see it. The mud is halfway up the tire, and they're just spinning, and we ain't going nowhere. As a kid, you think, oh, no, we're done. And, it was interesting. My dad, he was a hero. He got us back home to Mom, and everything was smooth. And, one day my mom and dad were talking in the hallway area, and I come around the corner, and just as I came around the corner, I heard him say, I'm leaving. And in the voice that he had, which wasn't violent or anything, in the voice that he had, I knew that he was telling the truth. He's going. And so I ran out the front door, and I hid into the back seat of his car because there's no way I'm going to let my dad go without me. And as I'm hiding there, the door opens up, and here he is, and they grab me by the feet, and they're pulling me on. I'm trying to hang on and stay in the back of the car. And my dad acted like a whole different person, like he didn't even know me. I hit the ground, I'm kicking, screaming, Dad, don't go, don't go. And, man, he gets in the car and pulls out of the driveway and drives down the road. And I'm thinking, so what did I do? What did I do wrong? And Dad is gone, but yeah, he'll come back. But the sad thing about it was he didn't come back. My brothers and sisters and I stood at the window day after day waiting for Dad to come home, and he never came home. And it's interesting, this dark cloud that I talked about came over our family. My mom was no longer happy. She was sidetracked by things, and it just wasn't fun anymore. And so about a month or so went by, and there was a knock at the door. I just happened to be the kid that went up to the door, opened up. Here's this great big guy standing there with this little lady. It was kind of comical, but he points his finger at me. He says, you Raymond? Yep. He says, I'm your Grandpa Olbert. And this is your grandma. And I'm looking at him, who's this guy? He comes in the house, and almost immediately, with my mom being joyful that he was there, and the house kind of starts to lighten up a little bit, and there starts to be some joy in it. Next thing you know, we're laughing and talking, and I'm getting to know him. And he says, well, we're going to pack you guys up and move you back to our hometown, and you're going to live with us. Really? And no kidding, just like that. And he packed us up from Flint, Michigan, and drove us back to La Crosse, Wisconsin. And now we had a family unit again, but my grandpa was, he was my hero. I mean, he ran the household, and we got to go to school. I got to go fishing. My grandpa bought me my first Schwinn bicycle. It was a 10-speed bike. I'm going to tell you what, this guy really loved me, and he took me around, and I got to meet his friends, and so Grandpa was really special, and everybody was in school. Things were going pretty well. And about the age of 12 years old, I knew my grandpa was sick. I thought he had the flu, like you would think, but one day Grandma and my mom sat us down and said, he's got this thing called crawling stomach cancer. Well, I didn't know nothing about cancer. I'm just a kid. And anyway, as we're going forward, my grandpa was sick. I mean, he was hurting, and he was in bed a lot. He started really losing a lot of weight and changing. And so one day they said they were going to take him to the hospital. And so I think, okay, he's going to go to the hospital. He's going to get all better and move back home. That was on my head. So I went to the hospital every day when he was there to see my grandpa in the hospital, and he continually was not looking good. And then one day I went there, and holy smokes. They wouldn't let me in the room. And now I find out my grandpa passed away. My hero. Holy smokes. This dark cloud now comes over the family again. I mean, what are we going to do? And my mom and my grandma are focused on bills and problems and this and that. There was a funeral, and gosh, my grandpa was really gone. And so for me, I wasn't the best basketball player or the best football player or some of the other sports. And man, I remember getting bullied and getting picked on because this and that. And I got outside of school one day, and I had two guys grab a hold of me and just beat the ever-living daylights out of me. I ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks over being bullied. And that really stuck with me. And so I started not wanting to go to school. I didn't want to be bullied no more. And I started hanging around with other kids that had the same type of problems I did from a broken home. And there's groups of kids be standing on the corner smoking cigarettes, and I'd be over there with them trying to have friends and have camaraderie and stay away from the bullying and the garbage. So all of a sudden you find out there's a party on the beach. So you go out to the beach and all these guys are out there partying. Next thing you know, you're drinking and partying. There's girls. I'm like 13 years old, and I realize that I really don't have to listen to anybody anymore. And so I'm out there. We're driving cars, you name it, and anything that you can think of, I was getting into, and it kept getting more and more, even to the point that I didn't go home at night anymore. I camp out right on the beach, and so I went home one day to see my mom and my grandma, and I walked in the door. Here's another guy standing there, towering, big guy, points at me and says, "You Raymond?" "Yeah." "Sit down." And I'm thinking to myself, who's this guy? And my brothers and sisters are sitting there. And he opens up and starts telling us, "You guys are out of control, so we have new homes for you." I lost my freedom right there. They took me in one car, and they took my brothers and sisters in another car, and they took me to a work farm up in Holman, Wisconsin. There was 5 other boys at that place, those type of kids that you wouldn't want your kids hanging around with. I mean, some of the stuff that went on in that place was wild. Every morning I got up, I milked cows, I went to school smelling like a cow, and I came home and did chores. I couldn't go hunting, I couldn't go fishing, I couldn't go out for sports, I couldn't do anything. I was imprisoned in a life I couldn't get out of. I'm just a kid. And so one day the bus pulled up to school, and everybody gets off the bus. The highway is right straight out that way, and I cut past the school on my own, went out the highway. I hitchhiked back to the La Crosse area, and I was with my friends. Man, I got my freedom back. Goofed around, sleeping on the beach and partying and doing all the stuff we were doing. About a week went by, and I got picked up. And for truancy, they give you 3 days off of school. Well, my 3 days were spent in jail. A 13-year-old kid. They threw me in jail for 3 days to teach me a lesson. I can't say that I was that bad a kid, but maybe I was. But for 3 days, I'd be in jail. The parole officer would come pick me up and take me back to the foster home. I hated it. I liked to work. I learned how to work, and I liked working hard. But the fact of having a home where the people really didn't care about you, and the other people that were there at that home were always doing some dumb thing with you, I didn't like it. There was no environment there that was fun. So every time I had a chance, I ran away. And I'd get down with my friends, and same thing had happened again. Pick me up, throw me in jail, back to home. So the 5th time I ran away, I went down to see my mom. I loved my mom. And so I went down to see her. I walked in the house. "Hi, Mom, how you doing?" I'll tell you what, I ain't there 5 minutes. The police are at the back door. They're at the front door. And, wow, I don't even get to spend any time with my friends. I have no freedom. And they get me back in the squad car, and I'm heading to jail. And I'm thinking to myself, how did I get caught so fast? And I'll tell you what, on the way to jail, I figured out it was my mom that called the police. Now I have nobody. I have nobody in this world that even cares about me. I know now that my mom did it for my own good. At that time, it wasn't like that. I got put in jail that afternoon, and I remember uncontrollably crying, 13 years old, uncontrollably crying. I knelt down on a concrete floor and up against a steel bed, and I prayed to a God I didn't know. I said, "God, would you please put somebody in my life that I could have and be with, and they would never leave me. And, that was just wishful thinking. I remember crying myself to sleep that night. I mean, this is it. This is my life. I hated my life. I absolutely hated that life, even to the point that I didn't care to live anymore because I had nobody. I wasn't suicidal, but I'll tell you, I mean, this kind of a life wasn't good. And so during the 3-day time, I had made up a new plan. I've heard of this place called the Cities, and that's where I'm going. I'm not going to be imprisoned in this life no more. So on the 3rd day, I got up and I had my cornflakes and my coffee. It is the worst taste of stuff you ever had in jail. And I'm sitting there, and there's a steel bench in there, and it's got a magazine on it that you can read. And there was a magazine I hadn't seen there before. And I opened it up, and man, there's pictures of moose and elk and bear. And there's stories in there of people who get to go to Alaska and Canada and Africa, and I'm reading this stuff. I didn't realize it, but at the time when I'm looking at this and reading this, I'm taken out of my depression. I'm taken out of this cloud, this dark cloud I'm in a storm, and I'm reading about this stuff. Man, do people really get to do that stuff? And all of a sudden, if you ever heard the bars drop on a jail door, it's loud. Bang! The bars drop, door opens up. There's the walking nightmare. Come on, Ray, I got to take you home. I went back into the other Ray Howell. I went back into the kid that's running. And I think he knew something was up because it was like I was walking the plank when I was walking out the door. Got in his car. My plan was the first stop sign that I saw that I could get out and run and get away, I'm taking off. I'm no way getting near that foster home. I'm taking off. And so we're driving down the road. I'm looking for the stop sign. And he looks at me and he says, I saw you read the hunting magazine. He said, do you like to go hunting? And for whatever reason, I said, yeah, someday I would like to go hunting. And then he said to me, he says, I'll tell you what, you promise me that you don't run away from that foster home again. I'd like to take you hunting with me and my sons, and in the meantime, I'm going to find a better home for you. I want to tell you something. As a kid, anybody that ever comes up to you and says, I'm going to take you hunting and fishing, they never show up. Mm-hmm. That's what happens. And so maybe because I was scared to death, I looked at him and I said, yeah, I'll make a promise. I'd like to go hunting. And so he took me back to the foster home. Every morning, here we go, get up, milk cows in the gutters with the cow stuff. It's kind of interesting. You squirt a cat in the face with a little milk, and the cow will kick you. I mean, oh, man, I got stories. I was in the gutter more than one time. But I went to school smelling like a cow, and didn't get to all hunt for sports or anything, and came home. But I had this dream that this guy's really going to call. And one day, my foster mother walked up and said, hey, Tom wants to come with his sons on Friday and pick you up and take you hunting. Do you want to go? She probably thought I was nuts. I lost it. Are you kidding? I want to go. I mean, you could probably heard me scream all the way back here. I mean, this is really going to happen. And no kidding. He pulls up on Friday, picks me up, and I get to meet his boys, and we go to a cabin out in the middle of nowhere in Black River Falls, and there's a great big pond in the back of it. And, man, we were shooting bows and arrows and got to go fishing. We're telling stories, and I got to have some hunting clothes, and man, this is real. So dark came, and it's time to get into the cabin and get away from the bonfire. And he says, well, we're getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I remember him saying that. We're getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and we're going hunting. Man, I get to go deer hunting. I mean, this is really cool. So we get to bed. I can't sleep. I'm in my hunting clothes, and I can't sleep. I'm wide awake. And I remember that alarm clock going off at 4:30 in the morning. That alarm clock goes off. Everybody gets up. Bang, the door flies open. There's Tom standing there. Come on, this is tradition. Follow me. Out the back door he went, ran right off the dock and jumped into that great big pond. And right behind him were the boys. They ran right with him. They're out there. It's dark outside, and it's cold out. They're splashing around and screaming, come on, it's tradition. You got to jump in here. You guys are nuts. There ain't no way I'm going to jump in that pond. And you know something? It wasn't very long, and I jumped in that pond, and I was a part of that family. I mean, what a weekend. This is nuts. I remember seeing the first white-tailed deer. I had buck fever so bad, I don't even know what I did, but I saw them. And I mean, I still remember it. And so I had the best weekend of my life. And Tom was driving me back home. And, you know, I'm now about 14. And he says to me, he says, I want you to know that you're going to be 18 years old soon. As soon as he said that, I thought, 18 years old soon? That's forever. Yeah, and he said, when you turn 18, he says, you can have your own job and make your own money. You can go hunting. You can have your own family. You're an American. You're free. And you can do it. And, you know, I want to mention right now, too, if it wasn't for our military, the police, all these people who are anointed to stand up to watch over us, I wouldn't have been able to chase my dreams. Tom told me that day, he says, you can chase your dreams. And you know something? I only went hunting with Tom maybe 4 times during my high school career, but I had somebody to talk to, somebody I could trust. And I actually got to get out for sports. He found a better home for me to be in. And I got to do some things during the last part of my high school career. And he was real. This guy was real. He had my back. And so I turned 18 years old. I got married 1 month after I turned 18. I was in love. And I mean, I was working 2 jobs and going to school. And I mean, I was free. No more foster homes. No more people watching. I mean, I'm my own man. I can do what I want to do. And at the age of 19 years old, God blessed me with a baby girl, and I named her Danielle. I got to name her. And I mean, I'm holding her and looking at her. I said, man, I'm going to give you everything I didn't have, but most of all, you're going to have a dad. I'm crying. I can't believe it. I'm so happy. I mean, I didn't really do anything, but I got to be a dad. This is cool. And so going forward, I'm working hard. I'm trying to pay the bills. The kids are popping out left and right. By the time I'm 23 years old, I got 5 kids. And you know, I was really happy. But it was hard to keep up with the bills. I was making really good money. And so my grandfather was such an influence in my life that he had a business of his own. And I thought about it. I can't really do much any better than what I'm doing working for other people. I'm going to go into business for myself like my grandpa. And I quit a perfectly good job, and I went into business for myself. And I want you to know that it was the fear of failure, not putting food on the table for my kids, that made me succeed. There was no 40 hours a week. It was whatever it took. And, you know, it was interesting. The business started to grow. I was being successful. I was honest with people. I did good work for them, and they kept coming back. And then the customer base kept growing and growing. And, you know, so things are going pretty good with that. But there was a lot of stress involved with being in business. I wasn't smoking or drinking or anything like that. So when I was 18 years old and got out of the foster homes, I was bullied so bad that I didn't want to be bullied, that I started weightlifting. I got in with a few other people. I started training, and as a drug-free lifter, it takes a long time to get to a certain point. But what happened was, in business, I would get up really early in the morning, go to work. At noon, I made it a promise to myself, I'm going to go to the gym and work out, and then come back at 1:30 and finish out my day. And a lot of times that day didn't end until 6, 7 o'clock at night. So I did that every day. And what's pretty amazing about that, I guess I could probably thank the bullies for what happened. It's kind of interesting to say that, but you know, after about 5 years of weight training, I decided to go to a tournament. I thought I was doing pretty good. I went to Fox Valley, and we went to a tournament there. I got smoked. I mean, I got leveled. Oh man, how can it ain't going to happen again? And so as things are going forward, I really had to focus to try and do well at a tournament. And after a few years, I'd go there, and I was doing okay. And after about 10 years of it, I was sitting in first place once in a while. after 15 years of it, you're setting first place, even have an opportunity to break state records and even national records. And so quite a few years went by, and I was at a meet in Osceola, Wisconsin, and they had the right judges there. If I set a world record, it would be noticed. And I felt I could do it. I went there and I set a world record. I mean, a kid from broken home, I set a world record. And man, I felt pretty good. But about a month later or so, I get a letter in the mail from the United States Powerlifting Association asking if I would consider to compete in the 242-pound class at a world meet for the United States. Are you kidding? I looked at that letter. I said to Karen, Karen, let's just hang this on the wall. I mean, this is unbelievable. But I trained really hard. And at the end of the year, I ended up in Idaho Falls. There was people from all over the world. There was teams from all over the world. And I remember everything's in kilos instead of pounds, and then there was a pound factor to what you weigh, and there's all kinds of stuff that can screw your head up real easy. And anyway, I got in there, and I figured out the kilos and the pounds and worked with Karen with it. And I remember when the meet was over, it was a 5-day meet, there was that many people. There was so many interpreters. I mean, everybody looked at you with a mean look. It was kind of funny, but I leaned over and I said to Karen, I said, if that Russian goes up for second place, I know we won it. I knew I did really well. And holy smokes, from fifth place to second place took forever for them to announce it. But they got to second place, and they had called the Russian up on the stage and gave him the second, and I immediately, I lost it. Are you kidding me? I won this thing? And they called me up on the stage, and I grabbed Karen by the hand and took her right up there with me, my partner in life. And man, they're playing the anthem, and there's an American flag there, and I got to pinch myself. This is, I stood up on that stage, and they handed me the microphone. And I just gave all the glory to God. And, so I'm walking off the stage, and this big Russian guy, he was a tremendous lifter. He was great, and he's looking at me, and I had a Kicking Bear T-shirt on. And I walked off the stage, and I took the T-shirt off, and I handed it to him. And he looks at me, and his interpreter looks at me, and she says, "That's too good of a gift." And I said, "What do you mean it's just a T-shirt?" And all of a sudden, she takes off running, comes back, and gives me this incredible Russian jacket. And that's quite a memory to me. But what's interesting is God gives you these dreams, and I believe that dreams are biblical. And anytime I've ever signed anything for anybody, I write, "Keep following your dreams." I could have never dreamed what I just did. And as the business was growing, my dreams were to find out if Africa and Canada and Alaska are real. I became very good with a bow. It was never that I wanted to beat people with my shooting ability. I never wanted to miss the spot, but I wanted to hit on an animal. And so I became a perfectionist. And it was really unbelievable. I mean, to get out there and there's elk, and then there's moose, and there's bears, and be on ice, the frozen ice it's 50 below zero, wearing Eskimo clothes, chasing a big white bear. I mean, I got to do that stuff. I got to chase my dreams, and that was amazing. And my business, it kept growing. I went from starting with myself, a welding machine, a cutting torch, to having 70 full-time people working for me. We were building big boats. We were building structural components that went to buildings. We built a Walmart once a week. Tyson Foods, we built all of their racking for the chickens. I mean, there was stuff that we were doing all over the place. This is really something. The business kept growing. And but what was interesting in life, I had become a celebrity in the outdoors. People kept calling me up and saying, "Ray, we'd like to have you on our pro staff. We'd like to have you shooting our products and get feedback from you." Well, it ends up I became an ambassador to a few of the companies. I was on the pro staff. I was an ambassador to a outdoor store called Gander Mountain. And anytime they opened up a new store, they'd ask me to come there and cut a ribbon with an arrow instead of with the scissors. And I'm going to tell you something. When you're standing in front of 300 to 600 people and you're going to cut a ribbon with an arrow, I'll tell you what, a little high, a little low, you find out what kind of man you are when you got to grab that second arrow. So I didn't want to miss.
Did you miss?
Oh, I got stories for you, boy. I'll tell you. I went to Flint, Michigan, which was the first ribbon cutting. And cutting a ribbon at 21 yards, inch wide, walk in the park. I'm going to tell you, no problem. So, but I had a system with my bow at shooting long distance at 100 yards or better by using just the top of my pins, not the whole pin. If you put the whole pin on something at 100 yards, you could bury it behind the pin and not see it, especially something the size of a pop can. So I used to use the top of my pins for aiming. Well, with the ribbon cutting, I would do the same thing. I'd come up, touch the ribbon with the top of my pin, and I had it set so it cut right through the center of the ribbon. So it was a real simple method, and I could see everything. Well, I get to Flint, Michigan, and I mean, there's so many people there, you can't believe it. I mean, and so I got my conference. I got the ribbon all set up. The mayor gets done talking, and Ray Howell's here from our staff. He's going to cut the ribbon with an arrow, and so this is real. I mean, and all these people around me, it sounds kind of like a Harley Davidson roaring a little bit around you. So I draw back. These 5 guys, and there was 5 of them. They're a bunch of old characters. They were giving me such a hard time, telling me I don't have enough arrows in my quiver. You ought to have heard these guys. They were just hammering me. I was so stupid because I turned around and I start going back and forth with them, teasing around. And anyway, it's time for me to cut the ribbon. And these guys, I turn around, I'm focused on the ribbon. I draw back, come up on the ribbon. I put my pin dead center in the middle of that ribbon. Whack. The arrow cuts the top of the ribbon barely. The rest of the ribbon ain't cut. And, oh, man, I couldn't believe what I just did. And, you know, the owner of the company is there. The mayor is there. Everybody. I just did the dumbest thing I ever did in my life. I missed. And so I knocked up another arrow. And this is really something, too. I drew back. I came up. I knew what I did. I released. And the arrow goes up, it hits the ribbon dead center. But instead of the broadhead being up and down, vertical, it turns sideways, perfectly sideways, and cuts the ribbon down the middle, and the ribbon is cut long ways and does not cut it in half.
Oh my gosh.
And as soon as that, I mean, I never had that happen. And as soon as that did that, these 5 guys behind me, you ought to heard them. One more shot, we're going to Bass Pro Shop. That was the first thing. And then the whole place lights up. Oh. And this is really happening. This is the worst thing that could happen in my life. So I knocked up the 3rd arrow, and I'm thinking, just like when I get to a power lifting meet, I am focused on one thing, that ribbon. And I kind of knew what happened. And so I drew back. I released the arrow, goes down. It cuts the ribbon perfectly in half, and both sides drop. And all of a sudden, I'm a hero. Nice shot, nice shot. The owner of the company walks up to me, and all these people are patting me on the back and all this. I feel like an absolute idiot. And he walks up to me, and Mark Baker walks up. Man, that was great, Ray. You did that perfectly. He says, you kept everybody in suspense until you cut that ribbon. And I'm looking at him just... I can't believe what he just said. I thought I was going to get fired. And anyway, I looked at him and said, Mark, I didn't do that on purpose. I was really trying to cut the ribbon. He said, whatever you did, it was perfect. Off he goes. I thought, oh, man. And anyway, that was the first ribbon cutting. I learned a lot. That week, I actually found out that at 21 yards, and I don't know why this was, the broadhead went through the ribbon the right way. It didn't go horizontal. It went vertical and cut it right in half. So I learned that. So the following weekend, was Amarillo, Texas. I get there at night. I don't have any time to practice. The next morning I get up. I put 3 dots on the target, and the dots are really small. I go back to 21 yards. I draw my bow back, and I shoot, and I am a 1/4 inch underneath that dot. What? What happened? I shoot the second one. It's a 1/4 inch or so underneath. The third one, the same thing. And I'm trying to figure out what happened. Did my sights get knocked off or what? This has got to be right on the money. Colin Raymer walks around the side of the building, screams as loud as you can, "Come on, Ray. The mayor's just about done talking. You got to get out here." Oh, man. I mean, this is really happening again. Now I'm going to make an idiot out of myself. Besides that, we got Fox and NBC are out there filming this. So I'm going to make a real idiot out of myself nationally. So I didn't know what to do. I put my bow down. I turned around, I bowed my head, and I said, "God, I need some help here. I'm going to make an absolute idiot out of myself. Would you please help me figure out what is going on?" And I just relaxed for a second, and I thought, okay, maybe I wasn't holding tight at the end or something. Anyway, I picked my bow back up. The first shot was dead center. The dot disappeared. Same with the second and the third. Oh, I got my confidence. I'm all swole up. I can do this. I walk around the corner of the building, and there is a wall of human flesh. I am telling you, there are so many people out there. It is nuts. And I walk out there, and I'm like, I'm all by myself and my bow and my arrow. And the mayor had just get done talking. I had a mark on the ground, and I had the target set up at 21 yards. And so I'm standing there, and all of a sudden the sun comes through the clouds and lights up, and the ribbon lights up. I thought, man, God is really on my side this morning. This is really good. And I'm looking at that ribbon, and all of a sudden they said, "Okay, Ray's going to take a shot and cut the ribbon with an arrow." And everybody is off to the side. Everything is set up real good and safe. And so I'm getting ready to draw. I come up like this. A lady walks out of the crowd, walks up right in front of me with my bow in my hand, and she goes, Oh, where's the mayor?
Oh my God.
I am whacked. These guys, the security guys, are supposed to keep the people out of there. And she just walked in front of me when I was just about ready to draw my bow. And I took her by the arm. I walked over to one of the associates. And I said, would you help her find the mayor, please? I am completely whacked now. And there's hundreds of people. And so I walk back up to my spot. Okay, I get settled down, and the sunlight's beaming on that ribbon. This is it. So I draw my bow back, and I'm aiming. I put the top of my pin on the bottom of that ribbon, and all I said to myself, follow through, don't move, follow through. And I squeezed off, whap, that arrow hits that ribbon. I had the target too close to the ribbon, so what happened was the arrow went dead center into the ribbon, pushed both sides of the ribbon in, and the ribbon was cut in half and stuck into the target. Oh, I couldn't believe it. What happened? And all of a sudden, this Harley Davidson starts roaring up again. And I thought, man, this is nuts. And I reached in to start grabbing another arrow out of my quiver, and all of a sudden, both sides popped out at the same time. Bing.
Really?
Yeah, then I was a hero. Yeah. Oh, some of the stuff that went on, they had opened up about 70 different stores that I cut ribbons at, but that was the only 2 that I really had that type of. After you learn it, then you know what to do. But so as I was going forward, I was involved with about 42 different companies, and gosh, I got to have people help me follow my dreams, and I got to test equipment. I got to do a lot of stuff. What was amazing with everything that I was doing. I wanted to make $1 million in my business. When I made my first $1 million, I wanted to make 2. Then you want to make 3. And you start to realize that your whole life is consumed by, okay, how am I going to make this money so I can go hunting or I can do this or that? And there's no cap to it. There's no cap to how much money you got to make. When you make more money, you want to make more money, and it just kept going. Same thing with the hunting end of it. When I harvested a big 6x6 elk, I wanted to kill a big moose. When I killed the big moose, I wanted to kill a grizzly bear. And when I killed the grizzly bear, I wanted to go after a polar bear. There was no cap to it. It was no. You think, okay, when I harvest that animal, that's the ultimate. Well, when you did harvest that animal, it wasn't. There was something else to go after. So there was no top to that. And the same thing with the powerlifting. man, I got the opportunity to set some world records. I thought, well, I'm going to be the strongest 242-pound guy ever walked the face of the earth. I'm going to set records that nobody will ever break again. And, you know, when I broke a record, I went after my own record to break it again. So there was no cap to that. And so I was in Texas, and Pat Quinn was there. And Pat was another guy that I worked with. So when I went on hunts, I worked with 5 different guys that were chasing the same dream I was, which was the Super Slam. If I wanted to go on a sheep hunt, I'd call them guys. I wouldn't call outfitters. I'd call them and say, hey, guys, where have you been that you did good at? And we worked together. And they'd call me and back and forth. And anyway, Pat was one of the guys that I was there with. And if you looked at Pat and the way he wears his hair and all the rest of the stuff, he looked like some kind of a movie star. I don't know how to put it. He's a great guy. But what happened was all these people were at this event. And all of a sudden I find myself by myself. I don't know where Karen went. And she's over there talking to Pat. And so I look over once in a while. They're still talking. About 45 minutes goes by, and they're still talking. And I'm telling you what, I started getting a little swole up. I started turning kind of a green shade of color. And I walked up to him, and I said, what's going on here? I suppose by the look of my face, they kind of knew, you know. I said, what's going on here? They both turned at me and looked at me and said the same words at the same time. We're talking about your salvation. I'm looking at them. This is nuts. I knew how to grab Pat by the collar and shake him up a little bit and say, stay away from my wife. I didn't know how to handle what was just given to me. And I shook my head and walked away from him. And, you know, I'm going to tell you something. This is probably one of the most amazing things because 2 days later, Pat Quinn did the boldest thing a man could do. He called me on the phone. Ray, I got to talk to you about having your own personal relationship with Jesus Christ. You see, my wife went to Pat to let him know that I needed a man to talk to me, and a man that was chasing the same dreams I was. Pat calls me up, says that to me. I heard him say that. He talked to me for about a half hour on the phone. I don't know what else was really said, but I remembered that. That was solid. The following weekend, I go to church. I used to go to church just to her sing. She had a wonderful voice singing, and to me that was family, just going to church and sitting in church. Well, that day was a different day. It was Father's Day. And I want to tell you guys right now, I absolutely at that point hated my dad. I know that he had another family. I knew that he didn't pay support. There was a lot of things that went on with my dad that made me absolutely hate him. But as I was sitting there, matter of fact, I think if I'd ran into him on the streets, it probably wouldn't have been good. I didn't like the way I looked because I looked like him. And I was sitting there thinking about everything, and it's Father's Day, and I got to be a dad, and I'm married, and I got a wonderful family. I got to chase my dreams. I got to do all that I was doing. And then I got thinking, well, it takes two. And that day, I forgave my dad in church. And when I forgave my dad, emotionally, I started crying. I mean, I didn't realize how much hatred I had in me for somebody until I forgave him. And Karen looked at me and said, what's the matter? I said, I forgave my dad today. And I walked out of that church a different man, I'll tell you that. So a week later, I'm getting ready for ribbon cutting. And I'm going to tell you, even hunting animals, as long as you got your confidence and you can hit the spot, you have your confidence on the hunt. This is the same thing when you're going to stand in front of 300 to 600 people and you're going to cut a ribbon. So I had a ribbon cutting coming up, and I went ahead and got my bow out, and I thought, gosh, if I can cut a ribbon at 100 yards, I'll have my confidence at 21 yards. I didn't even know why I thought that. And so I go up to the target, and I always had 5 ribbons on it for practice. I put the 5 ribbons up. I walked back to 100 yards, and I thought, man, I wonder if I can cut that baby or not. And I drew my bow back, and I took the top of my 100-yard pin, and I buried it a little bit into the ribbon, and I released that arrow, and it cut the top ribbon. Unbelievable. Now, I want you to know, at this time, I always had a camera guy with me. I always had a camera guy when I went into the field hunting and anything I did, commercials, I didn't have a camera guy with me that day. And so I pulled back and I did the same thing with the second arrow. I let go and I cut the second ribbon. And what ended up happening was I cut the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one. All 5 ribbons I cut in a row. I just did the dumbest thing I ever did in my life. I didn't have the camera guy with me because nobody will ever believe what I just did. I can't even believe what I just did. I thought to myself, this is humanly impossible. God had to be guiding those arrows. There's no way I could. I knew how hard it was to cut something an inch wide at 100 yards, but I just did 5 of them. And I walked up that target. I'm just amazed. And I just had that in my head. God had to be guiding these arrows. I walked up and there's the ribbons laying to the side and the arrows right down the middle. And I pulled out the first arrow and I said, man, oh man. And as I was pulling them out, I started thinking about God guiding my arrows. And I want to tell you, by the time I got to the 5th arrow, it hit me hard. I thought, has God been guiding my arrows since I was 5 years old? Did everything in my life happen for a purpose? And holy smokes. All this stuff starts going through your head. I thought, man, I'm having the best shooting day of my life. I put 5 more ribbons up on there because I want to shoot again. And
Did you grab your camera guy?
I should have called him. I mean, this is happening right now. And I thought, man, I'm that good. And kind of crazy, getting your heads all swelled up. But anyway, I turned around and started walking back. I get to about the 50-yard mark. And it really hit me hard. God had to be guiding these arrows. God had to be guiding my arrows since I was 5 years old. Everything that happened to me had to happen for a purpose. It just can't be. I was just a kid from a broken home. And it was so overwhelming to me. I went to my knees. I had my bow in one hand, the arrows in the other, and I knew the truth. And I raised my bow up and the arrows up, and I said, from now on, Lord, this is no longer to my glory, it's to yours. And I asked God to forgive me for my sins, and I asked him to guide me for the rest of my life. And I'm going to tell you something. I had more wisdom come in my head in the next few minutes than I've ever had. He put it on my heart right there that the day I die, all the animals on my trophy room walls was going to be on somebody else's wall, and my name wasn't going to be on them. So what did I accomplish there? Nothing but for Ray Howell. You got a lot of money in the bank? You don't know who your friends are. When you die, you can't take it with you. What did you accomplish there? And the same thing with the powerlifting. I knew that somebody that had been at it for 20-some years and been working as hard as I did, if they had a little better day than me, they're going to break my record. And I want to tell you something. My records have been broken. There's only one standing yet. And you know something? I knew right there, too. All it was for nothing. And God put that on my heart. They were just distractions. They really were for nothing. It meant nothing. When I die, I'd go. Nothing. And right there, he put it on my heart to let every kid know that no matter what their problems are, he's got a purpose for them, and that purpose is for good. My whole life, from 5 years old forward, I was like at a college of hard knocks. The day I graduated was the day I was on my knees and gave my heart to the Lord. And God promised me that the day I die, I go to heaven. I got a new home. But now I got a new job. I'm no longer a hunter of animals. I'm a hunter of men. And, you know, it's kind of interesting, but Tom Polkey did the same thing. You promised me. I'm going to find you a better home. We're going hunting together. Holy smokes, it's no different. That same promise is there. It's there for everybody. So now I had the biggest thing I had to do in my life. I had to walk up and tell my wife, I just made a promise. My life has changed. And I want to tell you, I was a little scared. I walked up to her and I said, I gave my heart to the Lord today. I'm not going back to the business the way I did. I'm not going to be whacking animals, and I'm not going to be setting records. God's calling me to the ministry to help a lot of kids, and all that I've been doing has been distractions. You got to see her, she had tears in her eyes. She knew that I've been saved. But the power in this woman is incredible, because she looked at me and she said, you do what you think is best, and I'm sticking with you. I'll tell you, when somebody makes that kind of a decision in life, more than likely their partner is taking off running because they're nuts. And a lot of people thought I was nuts. I think I lost 95% of my friends that day. It's pretty interesting. So as things went forward, the ministry of Kicking Bear was started. And I can honestly tell you, I am a founding servant. There is no way that I could have humanly done what has been done. It's just like cutting the 5 ribbons. I have tried to cut 5 ribbons in a row a couple different times. I didn't come close. How could that even be? God was getting my attention that day, and he got my attention. And so going forward, we started putting on events, and we had it set up to bring your own kid and a kid from outside your home. Most of these kids don't have a dad, or they don't have a mom. But if they get together with a family that does have a dad or a mom, there's the possibility of that kid being able to get in the outdoors is pretty good. And that's the whole thing. The Kicking Bear Camp had a lot to do with like what happened to me when I was a kid and I went to Tom's cabin. I mean, we tore it up. We got bonfires. We're playing games. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Kicking Bear is a little bit different, because when you come to Kicking Bear Camp, you're going to be sore for 3 days after it. I mean, I'm telling you what, you could be in the best shape in your life, but you'll never be in Kicking Bear shape. I mean, it is fun. It's nuts, crazy fun. But the whole purpose of the camp is to get these kids off the streets, let them know that God has a purpose for them, and that purpose is for good. And it is amazing to, it's 25 years now. This is the 25th year. And how can that be? I didn't even know how I was going to make a living. I really did walk away from those things. But God had it all figured out. I just stayed true to my calling, and it's 25 years. And, we're in 36 states now. Wow. And it's nuts. Some of the camps will be 150 kids at, and some of them will be 1,500. I've never held back on the numbers coming. And what's interesting is having the right number of volunteers and the people that are there to help run the camp. But I look at it, it's like a few loaves of bread and a few fish. All these people come to a camp and they're fed. It's totally free to them. Nobody's paid a dime in 25 years. And it's still going that way. Some of the people that have sponsored the camp because they know the truth, it's been pretty amazing. And this year here, what's going to happen this year, I don't know. It's people got to watch the Red Sea part. They walked around the giant walls of Jericho and watched them fall. Every time I go to a Kicking Bear camp and I see a kid or an adult give their heart to the Lord, there is no money in the world that could pay for somebody to truly give their heart to the Lord and have their life changed. And you know what's really something about that? They're going to heaven. The pipsqueak has no longer got any power over them. That's our purpose at Kicking Bear. And what's really cool is having these kids meet mentors like I met and watching their lives get changed around. In 25 years' time, this is pretty cool. These little firecrackers are about this big, and then the next year like this and like this. But when they are involved with a mentor because they don't have a dad in their home, it's really something to see. Indiana last year, I went there. These great big guys are standing there and they're looking at me, and I don't know if they're going to tackle me or what. Yeah. Hi, Ray, what do you want us to do? And you start hearing their stories. They've been coming to Kicking Bear since they were little kids. Now they're grown up and they got their own families. They're there because they know the truth. And, there's nothing I personally could do to do that. I was called to a ministry, and I've stayed true to my calling. And it is no walk in the park to be a disciple. I will tell you what gives me the strength is being in the Bible every day. I got some tremendous people who are alongside me. I got Pastor Kevin Bonner. You want to talk about a character? This guy is sold out for Jesus Christ, and I'll tell you what, when we are out there doing the games with the kids and stuff, I mean, it is teared up, but his purpose is the same thing. How many souls are going to heaven? I've been very blessed to be around men and women who love the Lord. And it's the same thing with the marriage. You know, when we had your wedding, I knew that you followed Jesus Christ, and so does your sweetheart. You guys got Christ in the middle of your marriage. You start looking at these numbers on this sheet of paper. That right there is pulled right away from the enemy. When you got Christ in the middle of your marriage and you're having Bible studies every day, it is my own testimony. My wife is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I look in her eyes and I see heaven. I can see Jesus, and she's looking at me. And I'll tell you what, I know what she's doing when she's on the other side of the country and where I'm at. She's sharing the gospel. And you know something? The kids, the same thing, just guiding them along. But all these kids that are puppeted by the devil, and we put on kicking bear camps, and we tear it up. They have fun, teach them how to shoot bows and arrows. And then we get guys like Austin. I'll put you on the line. Austin, I've had more fun watching you with those kids. You got this great big smile on your face, good or bad on the hunt. You guys are having a blast. Next thing you know, I get pictures of deer and bear and fish and turkeys. You got a bigger smile than that kid does. Yeah. That's a true story.
That is a true story.
Yeah. So I don't know, other than I will tell you the last part of this. So I was in Bible study with my wife, and I love being in Bible study. I always thought that I was kind of smarter than my wife. I had a lot to learn. Anyway, we started studying about Moses, and Moses was being called to free the people. Moses was reluctant, and he needed Aaron, and so God gave Moses a staff, and he said, use his staff and you can show them signs and wonders and they'll believe you. Well, I thought about that. I thought, Moses is turning the staff into a snake or doing this with it or that with it and so on and so forth. I thought, anybody that saw that staff that had an earthly focus would say, if I owned that staff, I'd be rich and famous. And they would be. So I wanted to find out what happened to Moses' staff after he died. And I couldn't find anything. I found out that Aaron's staff went into the Ark of the Covenant. And from there, I can't find nothing. I get to Gideon. They're talking about the staff of Gideon, and Gideon is being called to war. So Gideon's being called to war, and as he's being called to war, he doesn't know if God's real or not. So he makes an offering, and an angel shows up, takes his staff, touches that offering, burns it up. Gideon knows God is real. And what Gideon did with 300 men is totally impossible to do without God. When you read the story and take time to read it, it's unbelievable. So what is really funny about you and I sitting here right now, you're going to know the truth. You already do. I was sitting in my office, and Austin was in the office, and this went on for probably 2 months. I can't figure out where the staff went. I was studying here and studying there, looking up. I'm sitting in my office, and in walks Pastor Mark Clements, big smile on his face, and he likes to hunt and fish. And he pops over in the chair and leans back. Ray, you got to take that staff that God gave you and get out and do more shooting demonstrations and bring more men to Christ. You remember that, Austin?
I do.
I looked at him and I thought, what? What did you say? He said, your bow. He said, that's the staff that God gave you to bring men to Christ. I broke down crying right there because that man, he didn't even know what I was studying on. Mm-hmm. How could that be? And then I realized that God did do that. He put that bow in my hand for a purpose. I took it at one time and used it to become rich and famous. God had another purpose for it. How could I cut 5 ribbons in a row? How could I set a world distance record at 310 yards and hit a perfect bullseye? That's humanly impossible to do. But that day that thing hit that bullseye, there was 400 men sitting in the audience. 39 of them men gave their heart to the Lord over a shot. And the message was missing the mark, which was called sin. So in the mission statement for Kicking Bear, it's to put a bow in a kid's hand and lead their family to the Lord one-on-one. Jesus Christ changed my life. I don't have money anymore. I'm not famous anymore. I'm a disciple. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I am the perfect example of what it says in the Bible where God will take uneducated men and do something with them. That's what he's done with me. I have joy in my heart. Wow. I don't know how else to put it. My joy comes from being able to travel and put on the events and witness things like what I witnessed with you, and to know the truth. I know the truth. It cannot be Ray Howell that did this. It's our Lord and Savior. And I want to let every kid know while I'm here on earth that that's the truth. And when we go there and there's decisions for Christ, and Kevin was standing in the ice cold water, freezing in a pond. And I said, Kevin, we're going to baptize a few more people. Yeah, bring them over. And I mean, this is really happening. People's lives being changed because they hear the truth. So, yeah, that's the story.
That's amazing. So when did you give your life to Christ? How old were you? Like, when was that time period? So you were...
I was actually in my 40s when I did.
Because how long were you doing the rich and famous hunting up until then?
When my kids got out of school, it was like somebody let the cat out of the bag back then. I mean, I lined up one hunt after another. I went on 10 major hunts a year. Okay. And it was either hunting sheep or hunting moose or hunting bears. I went on as many hunts as I could, and I chased my dreams. And so right up until the day that God grabbed a hold of me and told me that they were distractions. And you know something? My trophy room has hundreds of animals in it. Other than white-tailed deer and turkey, I don't care to do it anymore. What Kicking Bear has gone just about totally year-round, and I'd rather go to events where we're putting on the turkey hunts with the kids or putting on the deer hunts with the kids and become a mentor with them kids and live through them. I actually took my wife, Krista, and took her deer hunting with a bow, and all these deer coming in. I'm going to tell you what. I mean, you're trying to get that person to do exactly the right thing. You can't do nothing. It is exciting to be with other people and to share your knowledge and your dreams with them. But when you take a kid and you get into his life and you got him on the right path, and that kid grows up and he's got his own family, you know, what does that kid think of you? And, you know, I think of Tom Polke quite often. He was my parole officer. I actually took a great big poster that had sheep and bears and all the stuff that they had made up from one of the archery companies on me, and I wrote on that poster. I sat down and wrote, "Thank you, Tom, for stepping into my life at just the right time." You know, if I hadn't said, "I'll make that promise to you," I would have taken off to the cities. I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't have maybe a chance to have a family. I wouldn't have had a chance to chase my dreams and do that stuff. There are so many kids right now that are so lost. They don't have a dad. They don't have a family structure, and they're on the streets. They're doing whatever they want to do because they don't have any other alternatives. And unless we step in with loving kindness in our hearts to them and tell them the truth, they won't hear it. And I'll tell you what, God's got a plan for every one of them kids. They just need a disciple stand in front of them and talk to them a little bit. Hey, let's go do this together. That's exactly what you do, Austin. And I'm very blessed to know you because of your unfailing love for kids that you don't even know. But that's the truth of it. So
Keegan and I were talking yesterday, like after the podcast, this is the fourth one we've recorded this week, and for the introvert like me, I'm leaving for Nebraska after this, and we've done 4 podcasts. We've had Leading with Power, I had a webinar Monday. I'm like, I'm ready to get out of here. And Keegan goes like, oh, I could do more. Like, this fills me up doing the podcast. And Keegan's not an introvert. But actually last night I took the young boy that I mentor, Caden, to the local archery shop, and he had a bow that he won at the Kicking Bear banquet. And we haven't got it set up yet. I've been meaning to get together with him and get the bow set up. So we went there, spent 2 hours at the archery shop, got his bow set up, and we get that thing sighted in at 10 yards, and he is just hitting bullseyes at 10 yards. Never shot a bow like a sighted-in bow in his life. He shot the Kicking Bear Genesis bows, and he's just smoking the bullseye, and I got a picture of him. He's got the biggest smile. Like, you can just see the joy in his face looking at that picture. And the same day that Keegan and I talked about that, I sent Keegan that picture last night. I said, man, this fills me up. Like, this fills my cup.
Awesome.
I had a long day yesterday of work, and like that doing that into the evening, that fills me up. Being the mentor, like I've always said, man, the mentor-mentee relationship, I get just as much out of that, if not more, than the kid themselves. So, man, my word of encouragement would to be anybody out there, whether it's through Kicking Bear or any organization or any kid that you know that needs help, you don't have to spend every waking moment with them. Sometimes it's once a month, once every couple months, like whatever it is. It doesn't need to be a huge time commitment. Sometimes those little deposits into that kid's life and just being a role model for them is really all they need. So the 2 young boys that I have had the opportunity to mentor has just been an absolute blessing. I don't take any of the credit for who they become. I want to be God's hands and feet, and if he can use me to make an impact on their lives, that's what greater joy can you have? So,
what's interesting about you spending time with that young man, can you imagine what's going through his mom's mind? My son has got a mentor, somebody that's keeping him away from the drugs and the alcohol, and he gets to be in the outdoors and hunting and putting food on the table. And, I think about that quite often. We're out there bow fishing. We go out there, we take all these kids bow fishing. They're flinging arrows left and right at fish. But going down the river, I was in the boat, and all these kids they don't even hardly know each other, and they're having a blast. And I thought to myself, middle of the night, where would these kids be tonight if they weren't on this boat with a group of people that want to see them succeed? And that brought tears in my eyes, and that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This country needs help. It's got to come from the youth. If the devil keeps puppeting everybody and doing the stuff he's doing, it's going to keep going backwards. And I guess I won't get into politics, but you guys know the truth. Yeah. I know the truth, and it's Jesus Christ. And I'm blessed to have brothers sit alongside me here, and we get to tell the world the truth right here.
Amen.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So, Ray, why don't you talk a little bit just about what it's like, the daily walk of being full-time in ministry, right? Because I think as a minister or in ministry, there's what is like the scene parts, right? Like in church, it's the Sunday, oh, wow, it's so awesome, this or that, or the little things that happen. But ministry is this daily walk, and you're pouring out so much. It's been going on for 25 years. Can you just talk about, what's that like? And because a lot of it's hearing and knowing the hardships of kids and praying for people, the closed doors, the things that nobody sees, of kind of like trudging through the mud of trying to lead people and loving Jesus, even when no one's seeing and all that. And you've been doing it for 25 plus years. What's that like? And then what are some of the important things and with your own relationship with Jesus that keep you going?
I think the most important thing is you listen to people on the streets, they're always talking about all the hypocrites at church, okay? You hear it all the time. When Pat Quinn told me I could have my own personal relationship with Jesus Christ, when I gave my heart to the Lord, I started that relationship. And do you know that He is my accountability partner? Nobody here on earth is my accountability partner. And someday when I'm kneeling before Him, I'm going to be judged. That's a little scary. When they talk about fear of the Lord, did you do it right? So the day-to-day walk as a disciple of Jesus Christ, people will go by your actions much more than they're going to go by your words. And I had a friend of mine pass away. I felt so bad because every time I shared the gospel with him, he turned his head. He made a lot of money. He was stronger than anybody I knew, and he'd done it all. He didn't need Jesus in his life. He's a self-made king. I was a self-made king at one time. And there he is laying in his casket. And I'm standing there looking at him, and I'm thinking, man, he looks like he's sleeping, but he's gone. And I got thinking, where's he at? Is he in heaven or is he in hell? And I started blaming myself for not sharing it more, but I couldn't. He wouldn't listen. And then I talked to another friend of mine, and he had the same problem with it. Did I share enough with him? Could I have done better? And I went to a print shop, and Ray Miller was in there, and he just lost his friend Mike. And they were really close friends. They biked and they ran. They did all kinds of things together, and they were disciples together. I mean, and I said to Ray, I said, Ray, I'm sorry to hear that you lost your friend. And he looks at me, a big smile on his face, starts laughing. Well, he's in heaven. He ain't got nothing to worry about. And he's laughing and joking about it, and this is coming from his heart because he knows the truth. And I started telling him about my friend Bill. And I said, I wish I could have done more. And Ray looked at me as serious as can be. He said, every minute that you were with him, you shared the gospel. You shared it by your actions, not by your words. And I thought about that, and it was almost like there was a weight lifted off my shoulders. So my accountability partner is Jesus Christ. Everything in the Bible is 100% true. And it talks in there about people persecuting you and lying about you and all these different things that they can't prove anything if you're following the truth and following your relationship with Jesus Christ. And that's what happens. The devil will come at you. If he can't get at you personally, he will come after your family. He will distract you any way he can. Are we at war? Absolutely, we are at war. And I'll tell you, when we put on a kick and beer camp, we're planning the battlefield. We're planning the strategies. These are the weapons we're going to use at this battle. We're going to use bows and arrows and tomahawks and people. This is what God has given us to take these kids and pull them away from the garbage that they're in. And what's interesting, getting into a tug of war and all the games they do, and then some massive marshmallow fight starts because of some big kid yelling marshmallow fight. I mean, this is fun. And by the time we light that big bonfire, these kids want to know who all these odd ducks are that they just had fun with. As a disciple, I kind of look at that, we're odd ducks. We're different than everybody else. And people do watch you. And I don't really care whether they watch me or not. My relationship is with Jesus Christ. That is my daily walk. I made a promise to him. I cannot break my promise. I know what happened with the first promise that I made to Tom Pokey. I ended up having a family. I got to go hunting and fishing. I got to chase my dreams. He found a better home. Everything that he said to me came true. Everything. But then to realize that everything that happened to you since you were 5 years old, all the bad that went on, all the dark clouds and the valleys that you go through, God takes bad and uses it for good. And you find out that your dreams are biblical and God has a purpose for them. That bow that I put in my hand that I was such a perfectionist with, it was God's staff to change men's life. And each and every one of us got a staff. This is the other mind blower. Everybody wants to be a big muscle guy or be strong or be impressive to other people. Women, they want to put on so much makeup they're wearing a mask. I want to tell you something. God has made each and every one of us perfect already to do his will. We don't have to be any of that. We just follow what the scriptures say. Do what we're called to do. And you're going to have joy in your heart. You might not be rich. You might not be famous, but you're going to have joy in your heart. I think that was probably one of the most powerful things in my life. I promised Karen I would take care of her no matter what. And I watched her like I watched my grandpa, and she kept telling me, Ray, I got joy in my heart. I'm going to heaven. She knew she was going to heaven. And I just ran into Scott on the street yesterday. I had no idea that he was terminal. He's looking at me and I said, what's the matter, Scott? Well, he says, I've been diagnosed. I'm terminal. I'm going to the church to make out my funeral and plans. And he shocked me. But this guy's got joy in his heart. He's talking to me about going to heaven. I said, well, every one of these kids we got to witness give their heart to the Lord at Kickenberg will be in heaven with us someday. We're going to have quite a party up there. And the fact of the matter is, while we're here on earth, this is the truth. We have the opportunity to kick the devil in the teeth. I know I'm going to heaven. And when I get to heaven, I ain't going to have that opportunity. While I'm here on earth, I might as well cause some trouble. I might as well be a little bold, right? Might as well make some things happen. And so that's what we're doing, because, eternity is a long time, and we're going to have fun up there. But it's going to be pretty fun when I look at Austin when we're up there and we say, Austin, remember that time we did this here at the camp and this happened? And I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I'm just telling you, we have the opportunity as disciples, as servants, to do what we're called to do. Be disciples to make disciples. And there is no greater joy than to witness somebody giving their heart to the Lord and then openly showing it to the world through baptism. Only God can do that. So,
yeah, that's incredible. And I mean, I've met you a few times, but I know a lot of people that know you, and seeing you, I've seen you at different places. I've seen you talk. And I would just say, like, it's a testament to, you walk the walk, you're living the life, and just the countless lives, Austin's lives, the people that I know mutually, that know you as well. Like, everybody says it, like, real deal. And I know that, and I know that's Jesus, but like real deal of like, I'm going to serve Christ faith. Like, it's not about the approval of man. It is just a wholehearted lover of Jesus. That's what I mean by the real deal. Like, as a Christian, that's what, like, if I want to be called if the real deal is, I love Jesus with all my heart and nothing else matters.
The interesting thing is that I know my weakness. I know where I'm weak at, and that has made me strong. It's made me strong because I got the Lord's sword in my hand, which is the Bible, and I carry it because I need to. I know how human I am, and if I'm not in the scriptures daily, I might fall. I might go down the wrong path. Anybody could look and say, "Oh, Ray Howell, he does it right." I'm going to tell you what, I'm as human as anybody else. Mm-hmm. The only thing is I made a promise, and I'm doing whatever it takes to keep that promise. And so we, in a blink of an eye, will be kneeling before our judge in a blink of an eye. And I just would like to hear them words, well done. Yeah. So I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not planning on retiring. I have too much fun at the camps and all the things that we do. But, yeah, so I'm looking forward to next year. There is so many events planned. We actually got the Omni Center for the March the 17th. We're going to tear that. They have no idea what I'm going to do to that building. I don't even know why they would invite me in there, but that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we're going to have fun.
Awesome.
So,
Ray, where can people are listening all over the country, where can they get involved with Kicking Bear and learn more?
Well, I would go to kickingbear.org is the website. We got some wonderful, incredible people throughout the nation working with us. And just find out where you can fit in. And, if you haven't started your relationship with the Lord, don't be afraid to call. People like Kevin and Chrissy and some of the other people, Tom, there's so many people that are a part of our team that are equally yoked that have the love of the Lord. They're willing to talk to you. They're willing to let you know. And then to find the right church. This is important. You find a church that is preaching right out of the Bible. In Revelations, it says, you add to or you take away, you're in trouble. I feel sorry for a lot of people, and I pray for them because of what they preach. And I'm going to tell you what, it's not good. You follow what the Bible says 100%, you're going to be okay. And being a disciple is no walk in the park. There's no question about it, because we're human. Everything you read about King David or Solomon, I mean, these guys had it made. Look at how human they were. And I'm not picking on them, but I'm sure someday I'll be looking at them and talking to them and talking about their adventures. I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
Well, the last thing I want to mention, we brought this up on previous episodes, but Kicking Bear's doing a fundraiser right now through their calendar sales. We got a whole box at our office here if you're in La Crosse. If not, they can buy them on the website, correct?
Yep.
So go to kickingbear.org, purchase a calendar, so your calendar is also a raffle ticket. So you can buy as many as you want, and that raffle ticket gets you into, I think, like over $30,000 worth of prizes.
Yeah, it's not really a raffle. Whenever you get a calendar, you become a member of Kicking Bear, and the members of Kicking Bear have the opportunity to win those prizes. And there's about 30,000 in prizes. Again, there'll be bows and all kinds of stuff that we'll give away throughout the year if you purchase a calendar. But the most important thing about that calendar is it is hanging on a wall, and every one of the months have got Bible verses in it. It's got QR codes that you can go to and learn more about Jesus Christ. And if you got a situation in your life, there's areas where you can look into and find where you can get some help. So that calendar has a lot more to do than just raising funds. It's there to sit on the wall and share the gospel.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much
thanks
for coming.
being here, Ray.
Yeah, sincerely, just a beautiful and inspiring. It's beautiful and inspiring for me just to get to hear your story. I've never heard it, so I appreciate you sharing that.
If that story doesn't inspire you to take action and
love Jesus,
to love Jesus, to help inspire kids, mentor kids, this might be the wake-up call that people have been waiting for. So thanks for being here, Ray.
What a blessing it is to share the gospel and tell the truth, because I'm as human as the next person, but the day I gave my heart to the Lord, things changed.
Yeah.
And he had a plan for me. And to reveal everything that has gone on since you were a kid, no matter how bad it was, that you can step out and help other people that have got the same situation. And it isn't just me. I mean, anybody that is a disciple. I mean, wow. And God's taking care of me. I don't know how to explain it. I don't even know how. I didn't even know how I was going to put food on the table, but it's there, and there's fuel in the tank, and we're going. I mean, we're going. 36 states this year. Look out, we're coming. We're going to tear it up. Yeah.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Thanks, Ray. This was really good. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. We sincerely hope that you found value in today's episode and learned at least one thing that you can take back and implement into your lives and businesses. As always, we appreciate your support and hope you can all find a way to pay it forward this week.